Good evening, everybody. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Hector Abad. I'm the Vice Chair of the Town of Miami Lakes Education Advisory Board. On behalf of the Town of Miami Lakes, Mayor Manny Sid, the Town Council, Town staff, EAB Chair Mario Pineda, and the entire Education Advisory Board, we would like to welcome you to tonight's Miami-Dade County Public School District 4 Candidate Forum presented by Headquarters Toyota. So before we started, I want to take a second to recognize our title sponsor, Headquarters Toyota. Thank you for always coming through for us. I would also like to recognize some dignitaries. I see Mr. Diegues, Mr. Josh Diegues, he's one of our councilmen. I see Mr. Alex Rizzo, he's a state representative, and Mr. Carl Sogby, a Hialeah City Council. This election year, District 4, for the first time in 26 years, will be electing a new school board member. As such, the Educational Advisory Board is hosting this event to provide you, the voters of District 4, with an opportunity to meet and hear from 3 residents who are seeking your votes to succeed Ms. Perla Tavares-Sandman and represent you in the Miami-Dade County Public School Board. The Educational Advisory Board would like to thank Ms. Tavares-Sandman for her dedication and her service to our community. So with that, I would like to introduce the 3 candidates, Mr. Roberto Alonso, Ms. Maribel Balbin, and Mr. Kevin Menendez. At this time, I ask you all to stand for the singing of the national anthem, which will be performed by Ms. Natalia Pais.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you, Ms. Pais, for the beautiful rendition of our national anthem. Before we start, I would like to introduce our title sponsor, Headquarters Toyota correspondent, Ms. Judy Farkas, to share a few words.
Hi, good evening. I just want to thank the town for tapping us and asking us to help with this event. I can't think of a more important event that we've ever had to sponsor. We have 3 candidates that are willing to give up their time and their energy to the most important part of our future, which is our children. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. And we appreciate everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Farkas. And now to present our moderator for the evening, please welcome Town Mayor Manny Sid.
No worries, I'll be introducing the moderator soon. Think back to the summer of 1996. I mean, think about what you guys were doing back then. I was getting ready to go into the 7th grade. On my Walkman, I had the Fugees, Bone Thugs and Harmony, and I think Mariah Carey just came out with like Always Be My Baby. I don't know, you guys know that song. And Nick and Knight was awesome. But that was the last time that the voters in Hialeah and Miami Lakes had an opportunity to elect a new school board member. The last time that there was a chance to vote for someone that's not an incumbent in the seat. And that's why this election is such a generational choice. because more than likely, whoever gets elected out of the three will be there for 12 years. I mean, these are 12-year terms. But I'll tell you, one of the things I rest assured about as the mayor of the town of Miami Lakes is that all three of these candidates live in our community. They live in Miami Lakes. So regardless of who wins, I think our residents will know that that candidate will every single morning on the way to the school board in downtown, they'll have to be driving by Miami Lakes Middle, Miami Lakes K-8, Bob Graham, Barbara Goldman, and all the great schools in our community, HML, which I think is incredibly powerful for our town. So I wanted to take a moment to thank Roberto, Maribel, and Kevin for stepping up. Running for public office isn't easy, but I really appreciate you guys taking that chance. And to introduce our moderator today, someone who needs no introduction, is a friend of our community, is a model of a great civics engagement, good government, someone whose ethics is unquestioned. The job that he's done in Bao Harbor Islands, Bay Harbor, Bao Harbor, is phenomenal. The job that he's done on his own when it comes to helping the community, when it comes to volunteering at FSU. He is someone who, in my view, is the best choice to moderate this debate. And with no further ado, my friend and your friend, give a great round of applause to Ramiro Inguanzo.
Hello, everybody. Good evening. Thank you, Mayor Sid, for the introduction, and thank you to the Town of Miami Lakes Education Advisory Board for inviting me to serve as your moderator this evening. Before we begin, I wanted to pick up on comments made by both Hector and the mayor, and just take a moment to recognize the current school board chair, Perla Tabares-Hampman. As they both said, for the past 26 years, Mrs. Hampman has given her time, dedication, commitment, and service, not only to District 4, but to the entire Miami-Dade County Public School and all of the children and employees of the district. And she deserves a very, very warm round of applause for the incredible service she's done. I'd also like to welcome our three candidates and thank each of you for the sacrifices that you're making. Without a doubt, we all know what it takes to run for political office, the sacrifice to yourself, to your family, to the other obligations that you have, your work and so forth. So thank you to each of you. As the mayor said, we're very blessed that the three candidates running for this office happen to be residents of the town of Miami Lakes, which means that they are all our friends and our neighbors. So I'm sure all of us know each of the three candidates and have a relationship with them. So again, on behalf of myself and the town, thank you for this commitment that you're making to our community and the commitment you're making to try to make our community an even better place to live, work, and play. So without further ado, here are the rules for the debate. And the candidates are aware, but we'll share them with the audience. We'll begin with opening statements from each of the candidates. They will have 3 minutes. We have a timekeeper that will keep time on each of the candidates' comments. The order of the opening statements have already been determined prior to the commencement of this forum. Each of the candidates actually drew a number for both their opening statements and closing statements. And maybe jot these down because it would be good lottery numbers to play. But coincidentally, all three candidates chose the same number for the opening statements as for the closing statements, right? So it was just by pure coincidence. So the first candidate that will provide an opening statement as well as a closing statement is Roberto Alonso. The second candidate that will provide their opening and closing statements is Mr. Menendez-Mackey. And then the third candidate will close out with Ms. Balbin. So after their opening statements, there will be 3 questions that will be asked of each of the candidates. So all 3 candidates will be asked the same question. There will be timekeeper to keep time. They'll have up to 3 minutes to respond to each of those 3 questions. The order of the questions will be asked. The first candidate that's asked the first question, the second candidate will be asked the same question, and the third candidate will be asked the same question. The next question, whomever answered second will answer first. and we'll rotate it so that all three candidates will answer one question first, one question second, and one question third. I hope that wasn't too confusing, but the candidates are aware and it will work. And then finally, we're going to get to a series of questions from the audience, from all of you, our friends and neighbors here in our town and in District 4. Several questions have already been emailed, so those will be asked first. The candidates will have 2 minutes to respond to those emails, or I'm sorry, to those questions. And then there are about 8 questions that have been submitted this evening from all of you that are here present. So those will be asked as well. So all questions asked from the audience, the candidates will have 2 minutes to respond. If a candidate references another candidate in any of their statements, we will allow the candidate that was referenced to provide a 1-minute response or rebuttal if they choose to. And I will ask the candidates that were referenced if they choose to provide a response. And if they do, they will be allotted 1 minute. All right. I think our candidates are clear. All right. And then finally, we'll conclude with the closing statements. Again, Mr. Alonso will be first, Mr. Menendez-Mackey will be second, and Mrs. Baldin will be third. All right, I think we're ready to start. Mr. Timekeeper, are you ready? All right, so candidates, please join us up at the dais. And Mr. Alonso, whenever you're ready, you will start us off with your opening statements.
Ramiro, I'm a little disappointed. You had an applause. Everybody had an applause. We walked up. Nobody applauses for us. So
Maybe they want to hear what you have to say before they apply.
well, group applause at least. Well, first of all, I want to start off the evening by thanking the EAB as well as the town of Miami-Dade for putting together this important event. As the mayor mentioned, these are very critical times in the world of education, in the world of our children. And I take this very serious as a parent. I've been a town resident for over 35 years. My father was very involved in the incorporation of our town, and the passion that our family has always had towards our community is immense. For many years, individuals have come up to me and said, why don't you follow in your father's legacy to be somebody within the town? And there's never been that thing to light up a fire inside of me, honestly, to run. But the last couple of years and watching how education has transformed has lit up that fire. And as a resident, as a parent, as a brother of 2 school teachers, I think now is the time for change. Now is the time for a new vision. Now is the time for a new energy. And now is the time for somebody who's going to be fully dedicated and present within our community. So as the son of 2 Cuban immigrants that came to this country through Peter Pan, they were evading all the crazy things that were happening within the Cuban regime, where our schools were beginning this indoctrination, all these things which we hear so much today in the news. As a brother of 2 sisters, I know we have great teachers, and this is not what the goal of our educational system is. The goal of our educational system is to teach our students the basics of what education is, preparing them for a life of being a true citizen, learning civics, learning math, learning English, and all the other important things, not all these social issues that we're hearing at our schools nowadays that really are just taking us away from things. An interesting fact that I heard the other day is 42% of our 3rd graders are not reading at grade level. But yet our school board is out there meeting on these obscene textbooks and not discussing the major issues that we have on. The other issue that we have that we really need to work on addressing is our teacher shortage. I hear it all the time, whether it be we don't have substitutes, we can't fill our honors program. These are big issues that we have to address. And then finally, school security. Just this morning, I was over with the Fraternal Order of Police, watching the amazing work that our police officers are doing. I'm blessed to have their endorsement, and I will work together with them to always bring security to our schools, making sure that our students, our teachers are protected so that when you drop off your children at your school, you're going to feel comfortable in doing so and knowing that at the end of that day, you're going to pick up your son or daughter at that school safely without any issues. So with that, I want to close up with saying that as a resident, I will always be committed to not just the town of Miami Lakes, but the entire District 4. And I'll do that together with working with all of our local leaders, starting at the top. I have the endorsement of Governor Ron DeSantis. I have the endorsement of all of our local mayors, other than one town. And I have the endorsement of all the communities. So I look forward to working together with the town and our future residents in making sure that we offer the best education.
Thank you, Mr. Alonso. Mr. Menendez-Mackey, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, sir. Well, first off, it's great to be with my fellow Miami Lakers. I want to commend our EAB, which I'm a member of, former vice chair of the EAB, and the tremendous job that we're doing for the town with the EAB. I knew from a young age that I wanted to impact the lives of our young people. I can remember the summer going into my senior year, working summer camp at Day Christian. I knew that my life's goal, my mission was set, and it was to impact the youth in our community and breed leaders. That's what I'm doing at my school. I do it each and every day. I'm not just an educator. In essence, I'm a CEO of my school. That's my why. That's my motivation in life. I'm not a politician. The journey's been exciting. It's been interesting. I've met amazing people, some of the elected officials in the audience. I'm doing this because I care about our community. The great things that I've done at my school, at Hareb, where our enrollment is up over 140% in the past 5 years. We're at capacity this year. We have partnerships with FIU, St. Thomas, and Miami-Dade College. My school, just to put it in perspective, it's not an elite private school. Our enrollment matches the low-income scholarship that our state provides. By the way, that is not paid for by tax dollars. It's paid by corporate donations. What I've done at my school with the team that I've built, I want to make a broader impact in our community. I want to make a broader impact for our town. I want to be a champion for education. Our governor stated that education is a vehicle for opportunity for our youth. I want to be a champion for that opportunity throughout our county, throughout our district, throughout our town. My main priorities are school security. We're focusing a lot on external threats, and it is a problem. As I talk to administrators in the district, since I've started my campaign, many schools are not protected properly. Many access points are unguarded all day. This is a dirty secret that you do not hear in the media. My first day in this seat, I will meet with every school in our district. I will work hand in hand with our school resource officers and make sure that we have a customized plan at each school site, not a one-size-fits-all plan, but what is right for every school site. We have to also focus on internal threats. I'm worried. My friends that are part of the mental health field, they are understaffed, they're underappreciated, morale is at an all-time low. In fact, there is a backlog of cases that they cannot get to every year. Many of you do not know this. Many of our kids are falling through the cracks. And I am worried about the security of all of our students, of our teachers, of our school personnel, because of an internal threat. We're focusing on the external threats. The next possible issue could be an internal threat. We have to support our teachers. Our teachers are not respected. We know that cost of living, inflation has caused a major issue. I'll finish this last point. And we have to give parents a voice. Parents must have a voice in vetting the curriculum that is being taught in our classrooms. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Menendez-Mackey. Ms. Balbin.
Good evening. For those of you here and those of you watching at home, I want to thank also the Education Committee and the Town of Miami-Dade for hosting this event. Oh, I start all over. Good. Good evening. So all of those of you here and those of you at home. I also want to thank the Education Committee for putting this forum together, and definitely the Town of Miami Lakes. This is a great opportunity for all of you to compare the candidates and make up your minds. Each one of us is in this race for different reasons. So let me share with you why I am running. I recently retired from a long career in public service and have planned to enjoy my retirement in Miami Lakes. I've lived in this town for over 30 years. Over 20 years ago, I served in the Miami Lakes Municipal Advisory Board that created the town of Miami Lakes. In retirement, without having to commute to an office 15 miles from home, My life was going to be about going to the gym, visiting our parks, staying active in my HOA, dining at the many restaurants not new in town, and staying a little bit busy with my consulting business. And of course, spending more time with my 2 grandchildren who attend Miami Lakes K through 8, and a 2-year-old granddaughter in Miami Springs. That was my plan. Then I learned that my friend Perla Tavares Hama suspended her campaign. This news, coming in the heels of Superintendent Carvalho's departure, made me think about serving on the school board to build in their legacy. I attend public schools after I arrived from Cuba as a teenager. And I learned English during double shifts in Miami Senior High School. My daughter graduated from HML and is a school teacher in Hialeah Gardens. Excellent public education has made all the difference in our lives. I'm running to ensure our public schools remain safe and A-rated, to keep our top choice district designation, and recruit and retain exceptional teachers. I want to build on the number of programs offered to address the needs and wants of our students, whether they want to become doctors, lawyers, plumbers, accountants, entrepreneurs, electricians, public administrators, or design clothes for a living. We know our community is made up of innovators and risk takers. We are unique in Florida. I have always supported local control, and that's why I work to create the town of Miami Lakes. And I strongly believe that our local public schools belong to the local community. I hope you will elect me to represent your interests, hopes, and dreams for your children and your grandchildren, and to make sure that every child is protected and every parent is respected. That's why I got into this race. If elected, my commitment is to be here to serve you.
Thank you to all 3 of you. A couple of statistics before we get started with the questions. Miami-Dade County Public Schools is the 4th largest district in the United States and one of the most diverse, with students representing over 160 countries. Miami-Dade County Public Schools has approximately 334,000 students and over 50,000 adult learners. Miami-Dade County Public Schools has over 41,000 employees, and it has a budget currently of $5.5 billion. So let's start with the first question. We'll start in reverse order. So we'll begin with you, Ms. Balbin, and then we'll go to Mr. Menendez-Mackey, and then Mr. Alonso, and then we'll continue rotating. Question is, all of you alluded to your priorities if you were elected to this position. But if you're elected, you're one of 9 members on this board. What will your top priority be as a school board member? And more importantly, given that you're one of 9, how will you accomplish this goal?
My priority, as it is for actually every single school district across Florida, is teachers and teachers' salaries. We have a shortage of teachers in the state of Florida. There's a deficit of almost 9,000. Is school administrators also included on that, but most of that 9,000 number that the governor gave the other day is teachers. So the most important issue for anybody that gets elected to the board, and those that are there currently, is how we're going to attract and retain exceptional teachers to give our students their education they deserve. So that is the #1 issue. Secondly, obviously, we're going to continue to strengthening the security of our schools. We have a great opportunity to continue to implement the different recommendations that have come since Sandy Hook. And our district has implemented every single one of them since then. So the strengthening of our schools, because of the difference in when they were built, that's the problem in how do we make sure that they all have the same security. So it has to do with when they were built and what kind of security and what issues are addressed. So those are the 2 main issues for me. And how I would do that, I know I'll be one of 9. Currently, I know every single one member of the school board, 8 of them as friends. And I attend board meetings as a hobby. I suggested people, they normally don't take me on. So I do have a relationship that have been built over the years. So I expect to have that in my favor to be able to accomplish whatever proposals is that I bring to the table. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Menendez, Maggie, would
Just
you
to
like for me
clar-
to
just
repeat the
clar-
question?
Just to clarify the question, it's 1 point or can I name more than 1 point?
You've got 3 minutes
Sure.
to,
Okay. There's so many, right? But we have to prioritize. Priorities have to be set. Number one, our kids have to be safe. Our kids have to feel safe from external threats, from internal threats, as I stated earlier. We have to support our mental health professionals. We have to make sure that these kids are being serviced properly. I think you stated there's a $5.5 billion, but I believe it's $7 billion for the 2022 school year. We have to find a way to allocate these funds better and match it to the strategic plan of the district. I know when I speak to my mental health friends, they state to me, on the crisis response team in Miami-Dade County, with hundreds of thousands of students, there are 4 individuals on that crisis response team. That's inexcusable. That cannot continue. When I'm on that board, that will be one of my first topics of discussion on that board, and I will push for it. Number 2, we have to support our teachers. I know that question's coming with the referendum. I'm a fiscal conservative, and that money's been allocated for this upcoming school year. We have to be pragmatists. We have to support our teachers. It is inexcusable that a teacher that's on year 15 makes $200 more than year 1 without the referendum. We have to address this. Folks, let's do what's right for our kids. I am not in favor of raising taxes, but it's come to the point where we have to make a choice for our future, for our students, for our community. We have to be pragmatists. We have to empower parents. When parents are involved in their child's education, that student thrives. I can tell you firsthand, as a classroom teacher for 11 years and as a principal for entering my 7th year. When my parents are involved, that student thrives in every aspect of their lives. We have to address the issue of learning loss. Nationally speaking, recent research came out. Nationally, students are 6 months behind in reading and math. We have to focus more attention on intervention that is tailored to each student. We have to empower our teachers in the classroom. We have to emphasize differentiated learning and different learning styles within the classroom. We have a large gap that we have to fill. It's going to take time, but once I'm in that seat, I will make sure that it is executed and scaled up within our district. When working with fellow school board members, I campaigned for Ms. Marta Perez in 2014. I have a great relationship with her. Jose Dotris was my first boss. He hired me. He saw something in me to bring me to Hialeah Gardens Elementary, where I thrived, became a department head. Every job I've ever had in my life, I've been thrust into a leadership role. From the time I was at Dade Christian, I was on the basketball team and baseball team. I was the captain. So I've always been in a leadership role. I hope to make a broader impact in our community and fight for fellow Miami Lakers. Thank you.
thank you. Mr. Alonso, would you like for me to repeat the question?
No,
You're
we're good. And I know you mentioned one, and it's important that we focus on that. I've spent 20 years of my life traveling across the country, working with educational systems, with all different types of districts, both here locally, throughout our state, and throughout the country. And there's a lot of dysfunction when it comes to a lot of our boards. And this is a position that requires leadership. Someone who's going to be able to bring the board together. And I think we've done that. And I've proven that with my record at Miami-Dade College, where it's the largest college in the United States. We were recently able to select a new college president that's going to be leading our college into the future. And where we're making a lot of those changes. So I think I wanted to start off and just making sure that we understand the responsibility and the magnitude of this job that's coming in, as well as the amount of time that it goes into it. So when you talk about priorities, we have to come in laser focus on the priorities that we can truly bring a return to our residents, because it's always easy to throw out the popular 10, 15 priorities that everybody's talking about, but we have some real issues that we have to address inside of our schools. Number one, school safety. This morning, I witnessed what happens in a matter of seconds within a school building. And a lot of that has to do with our physical security, but as well as our mental illness that we have going on. I recently talked to a mental health specialist within our schools where they have a caseload of over 4,000 students that are assigned to them. That is just something that blew my mind away. How are we going to address that? So that is one of my main priorities coming in, where I think the entire board is going to unite on that. And that's something that we have to always focus on, uniting the priorities of the board. Secondly, our parents are screaming, saying you have to listen to what's going on with us. And we have to listen to our parents. For far too long, our board members drive directly through Miami Lakes or through Hialeah or through West Kendall straight to the 18th floor of this downtown building. We need to be inside of our community. My first action item is to develop an office and open up an office right here in District 4 where parents, administrators, and teachers are going to be able to come and talk to me in person about their real priorities, their real issues, not expecting them to come to downtown Miami to come meet with me. Finally, we need to talk about our teachers. We have a huge crisis. Trust me, every Sunday night, I sit at the dinner table in my parents' house. My father was always very strict. 7 p.m. Sunday nights, you better be at home on the dinner table with your brothers and sisters. I'm the brother, my two beautiful sisters that are teachers. And we talk about the issues that are going on in our lives. I would travel the country. I would talk about what all school districts are doing across the country, how I worked with these teachers this past week, and how I worked with this principal, how I worked with the school board member in order to implement new processes within the school. And then my sisters would share their frustrations of what's going on here locally in Miami-Dade County Public School. From we don't have toilet paper in our school to I need to buy my own supplies. With a $7 billion budget, that is just the largest slap in the face of all of our teachers. It just leaves me speechless to think that with that, we are taking 40% of our taxpayers' dollars, putting them into our schools, and we can't offer school supplies.
Thank you. All three of you alluded to teacher recruitment and retention, as well as school safety, which feeds into this next question. In 2018, the voters of Miami-Dade County overwhelmingly approved a referendum for an additional 0.75 mils of ad valorem taxes to be levied and paid to the Miami-Dade County Public Schools to use for operational expenses for operational funds to do two things: improve compensation for high-performing teachers and to increase school safety and security personnel. As you know, this referendum generates approximately $250 million each year for Miami-Dade County Public Schools that goes directly for both teacher compensation as well as school safety for the Miami-Dade County Police Department. Miami-Dade County Public Schools Police Department, excuse me. This referendum will sunset on June 30th, 2023. Miami-Dade County Public Schools has already approved, Miami-Dade County has approved a new referendum that will be on your ballot on November 8th. This question will ask the following: shall the school board of Miami-Dade County, Florida, levy up to 1 mil of ad valorem taxes for operational funds to improve compensation for high-quality teachers and instructional personnel, and 2, to increase school safety and security personnel with oversight by a citizen advisory committee beginning July 1, 2023, and ending on June 30th, 2026. So the question is, some of you have alluded to this, with the referendum that's coming up on November 8th, do you support the referendum? What would you advise voters to, which way should they vote? And if you don't support it, how do you recommend that the school district make up the loss of $250 million that goes to teacher compensation and school safety? So we will reverse the order now. Mr. Menendez-Mackey, you start. Go to Mr. Alonso, and then Ms. Balbin.
Thank you. As I alluded to earlier, I consider myself a fiscal conservative, but I'm a pragmatist. The alternative to not approving this referendum is catastrophic. We know this. Once sitting on that board, I will work to make sure that we are using our funds properly. I'll tell you, I do this every year. I manage a multi-million-dollar budget at my school. In fact, my school is debt-free. We paid off our property 2 years ago. We have to have people sitting on this board that can manage funds properly. However, that ship has sailed for this upcoming year. We have to do what's right for our community, for our children, for our teachers. We have to protect them. Without the referendum, it is estimated we'll lose 300 school resource officers. Tell me, is anyone in the audience ready for that? Are you ready to put our most valuable asset at risk? My answer is no. We have to protect our teachers. We're talking about professionals that go to school for at least 4 years, many with advanced degrees, and they are not properly compensated. We know how difficult it is to live in Miami, how cost of living continues to go up. Inflation is off the charts. The alternative will be catastrophic. I'm sure it's gone viral, a teacher leaving the field to go work at Walmart and actually make more money. How can we allow this in our society? In my opinion, it's the noblest profession. They are raising our future. Think about it, folks. We have to protect these professionals. We have to properly compensate and treat them with respect. So I am in favor of the referendum. The second part of the question, I'm sorry.
Second part of the question is, if you do not support the referendum, how do you propose that the district make up the approximately $250 million that it would lose?
So obviously in favor, once sitting on that board, I will, as someone, the only person in this race, quite frankly, that manages a multi-million-dollar school budget, I will work to make sure that our funds are allocated properly and utilized and executed properly. Thank you.
Mr.
So I-
Alonso,
Yeah, I like the way that we throw around fiscal conservative around, but then we raise our taxes. Listen, folks, I've knocked on the doors of thousands of residents in Miami Lakes, Hialeah Gardens, across all of District 4. They are hurting. They are hurting because property taxes are increasing, homeowners insurance is increasing, and it's just becoming a bear to be able to survive in this community. We have seniors out there that cannot afford to maintain their homes anymore. I am not a favor of a referendum. This was a temporary referendum that was used to improve our school security and provide teachers with bonuses, our high-performing teachers with bonuses. This current board has decided to use it to balance their budget. And when it comes to balancing budgets, I bring that experience. In Miami-Dade College, we've had to restructure a lot of what we're doing, and it's a multi-billion-dollar budget as well. We decide on where that money is being spent. And I'll tell you, not one of our teachers has had an actual pay decrease. We actually just gave all of our professors a pay increase without having to raise any fees to our students, without having to ask for any additional dollars. Why? Because we've right-sized the institution. And that is what needs to happen with Miami-Dade County Public Schools. As Mr. Iguanzo mentioned, we have till June 30th, 2023. That gives me plenty of time to dive into that budget and find $250 million and some. Because through the years of me spending time working with districts, I see the spending. And it's, you know what? It's the mentality of tax and spend. And that needs to end. Because in my home, in my business, I've had to tighten my belt because I just don't have as much money coming in and costs have gone up. We need to do the same thing as a district, and I can commit to every single resident that I will not raise your taxes, but more importantly, I will commit to every single teacher and police officer that you will not have a pay decrease, but you will have a pay increase, and that I will work with every single police officer to make sure we do not lose not one officer, but yet we hire more officers in order to make sure all of our schools are secure and your children go home safely at the end of every day.
Ms. Alvin.
Yes, I do believe that we need to be consequential with our answers to the questions. As far as the referendum, I will be voting for the referendum. I think it's important to know that this is not a new tax, okay? We have been paying for this for the last 4 years. It's a continuation of the same tax, so it's not something new. We have been paying for it. The one thing that is new is that instead of 0.75 mil, it's going to be a full mil because we have to now add money to be able to pay the charter school teachers the same money that our teachers are getting paid in the public school system. So we have to go up that 25 to make it one full mil to make sure that the charter school teachers are getting paid the same as our public school teachers. So again, not a new tax and only a little bit more because we need to compensate charter school teachers the same way that we compensate public school teachers. Second of all, I really wish that that could happen, but I honestly think that that requires a lot of magic for what Mr. Menendez and Mr. Alonso has said, and find this money. I wish all of you should have watched the budget meeting of the school board and an explanation that was given as to where the money is and the money isn't. And I tell you what, this could be fixed. And I'm glad that we have a state representative here. Tallahassee can fix this for us. Tallahassee can pay the differential, the differential that was taken away 20 years ago, where because we have a higher cost of living, the formula, when they do it in Tallahassee, there was more money for the large counties, Miami-Dade County being the largest one. But that was taken away. So now Dixie County gets more money than Miami-Dade County. Although Dixie County, you can buy a house in Dixie County for $85,000. And a student in Dixie County gets more money allocated by Tallahassee than a student in Miami-Dade County. So if we really want to fix this and we want to be totally fiscally conservative, the money is in Tallahassee. There's a 21.8 billion surplus this year. Okay. So if they wanted to take this burden away from Miami-Dade County, which would be great, and I would welcome it, Tallahassee can redo the formula, and we have now the Secretary of Education, one of our own. We could work on convincing him that this is what will be beneficial to the taxpayers of Miami-Dade County, so we don't have to have the added mill on the referendum, and we can cover, because I tell you, the money in the district is not there. There's 55% reduction in staff downtown in the last 6 years. 55% of the staff downtown has been reduced because the money wasn't there anymore. And they were not going to take it away from the teachers. So I welcome this magic that was just playing before, but I tell you, Mr. Rizzo, I will welcome talking to you about the fact that we need to do better with that differential, and we will solve this issue. Thank you.
Thank you.
Pretty
The next
much.
question and the final question before we get to the questions from the audience. Last year, the Miami-Dade County Public Schools Board unveiled their 2021-2026 strategic plan, 5-year strategic plan that will guide the work of public schools over the next 5 years. This plan affirms the district's commitment to providing all students with a world-class education that prepares them to reach their full academic, personal, and civic potential. So the question to the candidates is, are you familiar with the strategic plan? Do you agree with it? Which of the 5 pillars referenced in the plan do you think is the most important? And are there areas of the plan that you would change or enhance? Mr. Alonso, we begin with you.
Definitely, yes. So I haven't read the entire plan, but I have reviewed some portions of it. And I'll tell you the most important thing that we need to do here, and where we really have to focus in, is on our parental choices. And I don't mean by parental choices of what's being taught or how it's being taught, but the choice of giving the opportunity for every child in our district to have a great education. Within our own communities, we need to bring back the programs that our students are thriving for. We need to listen to our community and listen to what it is that they need. One of the actual products that our company acquired and we worked with many districts was a product that would help families input what it is that their child is looking to do. What do they want to be in life? What are their interests? And then matching them with the right school for them. So that way we can then learn about the programs that the students within the actual communities, District 4, are looking for, and we can develop those right within our campuses. So coming in, one of my number one focuses will be, like I said earlier, creating that district office where we'll be able to listen to the families. And I think, sometimes when we create these visionary plans, they're really great on paper, but we got to come back always to what it is that we want from our community, what it is that our families want. Listen to them and bring that back to make sure that we're always representing our community and District 4 in my scenario.
Thank you. Ms. Balbin, I believe it rotates to you.
I think so. I don't know, but I'll take your word for it. Definitely, the district has spent a lot of time. This is not the first strategic plan. It all started with Mr. Cavallo. There were meetings. I went to one of the meetings, the public meetings. I am not going to tell you that I am familiar with every single one aspect of the plan, but I know, like Mr. Alonso said, parental involvement is a huge effort that the district has identified as something that needs to happen. We've talked about District 4 with our English language learners. The fact that parents of these students really need to have an additional assistance in how to get them involved and know about what's going on with their students. And the issue of parental rights that's been spoken so much. There is a Parents' Bill of Rights. And what I tell parents that say that they may or may not have the right to do something with a student, If you don't want your child to be in a class where they're teaching something you don't like, you can take your child out of the class. I did that with my daughter. I've known friends of mine that done it all the time. But the actual Bill of Rights was signed by the governor. I mean, this is something that is very specific, and parents have every single right about what their children learn and what they don't want them to learn. And I think the district is making a huge effort because of all the different issues that have been going on lately in making that connection with the community and with the parents. And I think we're going to see a lot more of that, together with obviously all the curriculum issues and all the implementation of the different aspects of the plan to make it work. Security continues to be part of how they're really going to manage it in the best way. And the health, the mental health issue, that the district just created a mental health department. And yes, they want to have more mental health workers. I know the report I heard, it's going to be 1 for 2 schools rather than 4 schools, like Mr. Menendez alluded to. So all that planning is important. And when a district or any entity, Miami Lakes has a strategic plan. We go to all those meetings to make sure that they're doing what the town wants. I encourage parents to get involved. This participation in planning to what is best for our students and what is best for the district to do for us, we have the right to do so. That's why we live here. That's why I love democracy, participation. Let's get them to do what we want. So I encourage everybody to be part of it.
Mr. Menendez-Mackey.
Thank you, sir. I've skimmed through the strategic plan. I've developed strategic plans for my school prior. I'm familiar with the pillars in the strategic plan. I've developed long-term and short-term strategic plans. In the strategic plan, the district definitely has to address the gaps in learning, especially among minority groups. We know that we're behind the 8 ball. We were prior to pandemic. Pandemic just accelerated this. We have to address learning loss. As I alluded to before, tailored intervention programs at each school, depending on the level. DI has to be emphasized. Professional development plans have to be tailored per school. We have to be data-driven. I'm a big believer in utilizing data in all decisions. We have to make sure that we're utilizing data in an effective, targeted way within our schools. Once on that board, I have a plan to scale up these tools and provide proper training to our region superintendents, our district workers, and our school site principals. The governor's made excellent moves in progressing to a progress monitoring system. I know they're going to start the 2022-2023 school year with that progress monitoring plan as a baseline so that we can tailor to the needs of each individual child. That is a good first step. We have to, and I know we haven't spoken about this yet tonight, we have to make sure that our ESE teachers are well equipped and that the needs of these students are being met. Last night, in fact, I was talking to an ESE chair from a local school. Not at her school, but at other schools, they do have mixed grade levels. This is a problem. This is a necessity that they have to go to the district because there is a shortage in those type of staff members. I've heard of classrooms where there's 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders within the same class, where ESE chairs are pulled for other duties at the school. This is not a secret. We have to make sure that these folks are properly equipped, and parental rights. We have to make sure that parents are empowered. It's easy to say, yes, let's give parents rights, but we need to empower parents to take the next step and become involved in their child's education. I have a plan to scale that up district-wide. Parents must have a voice and be able to vet any curriculum, anything that's being taught to their child, anything that they're exposed to at the school. Recently, that's the sex ed book, we know it was in the news, it was passed, it was reversed as a 5-4 vote. I was able to review that curriculum. I think that curriculum has to be age appropriate when we're dealing with topics like this. I am in favor of a sex ed curriculum, but it has to be age appropriate, and parents must have an opt-out choice. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that concludes the 3 questions that we developed. Now we're going to get into questions from the audience. The first 8 come from individuals who submitted them online. They came directly to me. And coincidentally, we have 8 that were submitted this evening. So there's a total of 16 questions. You'll have 2 minutes to respond to to each of the questions. First question, and we'll start with Ms. Balbin. I believe you're first, and then we'll go to Mr. Menendez-Mackey and Mr. Alonso. Okay? First question. Recruiting teachers seem, by the way, let me preface this by saying that the bulk of these questions came from teachers in our district, including or a recent teacher of the year for the district who submitted some questions. So
Ms. Murphy.
first question, recruiting teachers seems to be easier than retaining teachers. What specific ideas other than better compensation do you have with regards to taking on the task of retaining teachers in our district?
And that is true, because when we are recruiting, the issue has been how we offer more money. And we are sort of getting to that at 47,000, we're getting competitive to someone that finishes an education career, although that money is still not enough to live in Miami, by the way. And I'm looking at a teacher that I know that has 2 jobs beside his teaching job. Yes, the recruiting, although I was listening also to a presentation where recruiting before used to be a lot easier, and you could sell Miami and the sunshine when you go to Massachusetts and, oh, it's not cold over there. But the fact is that the money in Massachusetts, for example, a student in Massachusetts is given 3.5 times more money per pupil than a pupil in Florida. So those schools have a lot more money to offer salary to teachers. So these teachers are not leaving Massachusetts to come to Miami. So it's very, very difficult. The same thing is that from 5,000 people that used to sign up for education in Florida for a degree is down to 2,000. So people are not getting into the field, and people are not really going out wanting to work in the field either. So it's a tough problem. Now, for the teachers that we already have, a little more difficult, because what you need to do is make sure that they have the benefits, that the base salary is an issue of base salary, not a bonus that comes and goes. So giving them, some teachers need to know that they appreciate it, the environment in that they work in certain schools, that some principals don't make it a good place for them sometimes. So retaining has a lot more legs than just recruiting, and it has to do with all the benefits and how do you convince them that this is what, that they're appreciated, that they will be taken care of, and that there are other benefits, specifically healthcare. Healthcare is super expensive for teachers, and those are here know it in the public school system. So if expanding in those benefits is what's going to keep them with us.
Thank you. Mr. Menendez-Mackey, you're second.
Thank you. It's a tale as old as time. I've been in teacher shoes. I was a public school teacher for 11 years. It's a trick that the districts use for a long time. It's a revolving door. They're recruiting teachers in with that base salary of 47,000, like Maribel alluded to. And we know veterans in the field are making just a little bit more than that first year pay, right? It's not just about compensation. Yes, we know, we've stated that tonight, we need to compensate these teachers, but it's also empowering these teachers. I do this each and every day at my school. We pay much less than the district pays, and my turnover is virtually nil in the past 4 years. It's because I've created an environment where teachers are inspired, they're empowered, they're happy. We need to empower these school site principals to do the same district-wide. And that's why I'm running. I want to make a broader impact. I want to make sure this happens at all school sites. Yeah, I'm a private school principal, but I believe all our schools can thrive, whether they're charter, private, or public. I'm a champion for all education, for school choice. We need to scale this up district-wide. We need to make sure that these principals are CEOs and they're not bound by the bureaucracy within this district. We got to empower these principals so they can maneuver and make sure that happens at the school site. We need to create better pathways for teachers that are aspiring leaders. I was told when I graduated with my master's degree in leadership, man, you're going to have a tough time because your last name is Mackey. The same reason I had to add my mother's name to my last name for this campaign. We need to make sure that all teachers have a pathway where they can be allowed to be in leadership roles, in department chair roles, and make sure that they're not just stuck in a rut. That's how we create teacher morale within the schools. High teacher morale. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Alonso.
So a lot of people don't know this, but I started my career in education working together with my sister at Charles White Elementary as a YMCA camp instructor after school. I would go to Miami-Dade College, and then I would be a camp instructor there helping with after-school care. So I know what our teachers are going through. Back from when my sister started teaching to where we're at today, it's a broken record. We've heard it for so long. Our teachers need to be compensated correctly, and they need to be receiving the raises that they deserve, especially our senior teachers that carry so much experience. But what they really need is the respect and the support that they're lacking. I've spoken to so many teachers locally and throughout the country. I've trained thousands of teachers in my career, and working together with them, these teachers have a passion, a love for our kids. They don't do it for the money. If they did it for the money, they'd be doctors, they'd be lawyers, they'd be accountants. They do it because they love our kids. And we need to love them back the same way that they're loving our kids by providing them the support. We're asking teachers to adopt the inclusion of other students, which I love. I am a strong supporter for students with special needs. But if a teacher is now sent with the task to have to deal with 25 kids, sometimes 30 kids in a class, and some of those students need special attention, now you're stretching as teachers thin. You then have the problem of your teachers that are your high-performing teachers, which honestly is what the referendum was created for, to bonus them, incentivize them, get them to continue to want to teach, to do the great thing, and to honestly weed out the bad teachers, because we do have some bad teachers out there that sometimes get overly protected by our unions. And that is the problem that we're facing within our school district right now. We want to pay everybody the same, but I'm sorry to tell you, I come from the corporate world of education. And in the corporate world of education, when you are a high performer, you get paid at a high level. When you're a low performer, you get paid a low performer. But it's done by providing you the proper tools. And our teachers need the proper tools so that they can grow and they can help our children grow into better citizens in the future.
Thank you. Next question. Mr. Menendez-Mackey, will begin with you, then Mr. Alonso, and Ms. Badmain. Safety and security continues to be a relevant concern in our district as well as across the entire nation. Other than increasing police officers on campuses and compensating police officers better, what other specific recommendations will you be making to the school board to address these concerns?
Thank you. As I stated earlier, we know that we have to support our school resource officers, but I truly believe it's not a one size fits all. We need to evaluate each school site. Each school site is built differently in Miami-Dade County. Each school site has different access points, a different quantity of access points. We have to make moves to make sure that it's a tailored plan at each school site. Just today, I was planning we're on the 9th at my school, we're doing a live drill, a shooter drill. Sorry, I forgot the
Active
term,
shooter.
an active shooter, an active shooter training at my school. I applaud the district. I know today they partook in a lot of these trainings district wide. We have to make sure that this is done at every school site, not just at centralized locations. Every school site is different. We have to address the need for mental health resources. I'll say it again. I sound like a broken record. I know we're focusing a lot on external threats and justifiably so, but we have to be on the lookout for internal threats. We can't have a situation like Columbine that started this whole craze of school shootings. We have to make sure that if we see something, we say something, we're training our students to be on the lookout for red flags, that our mental health professionals, anyone that is red flag, is being serviced properly. And that's gonna take proper staffing. We have to make sure that this is occurring at each site. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Alonso.
There's a reason why I'm endorsed by the Fraternal Order of Police, and that's because I truly understand what it is that they're facing. For years, I was the chairman of the Public Safety Committee for the town of Miami Lakes, and I worked together with our local law enforcement as well as with state officials to make sure that we were protecting not only our town residents, but our schools. When the shootings at the schools began, one of the biggest things that we had was, how do we set up police officers at our schools, especially here locally? Because for some reason, our schools here locally in Miami Lakes were not receiving the resource officers that we needed. I championed that effort together with other parents here in our community to make sure that every school, even our private schools and our parochial schools, were secure by having a police officer there. I worked together with the town in order to be able to fund those police officers and make sure that the town was participating, if need be, with our taxpayer dollars to protect our schools. So I think that's very important that we have somebody that has experience. And that's why today I actually was there to see one of the live drills, because I think it's important as a board member to understand what it is that our law enforcement officers are faced with, what our community is faced with, and our teachers. Lastly, as I worked throughout in education, one of the main things that we focused on was behavior management. We worked together with a lot of our teachers to develop systems to put in place through software and through data and analytics to be able to look at those flags. Those flags were students that were heading in the wrong direction that needed to be brought back. Those students that sat in the back of the class and were quiet and actually needed a little bit of attention or needed to go talk to a counselor. And that was all done working with our teachers, training them on how to identify those individuals within the classroom. And through our tracking software, which is called Plasco Track, but then became Hero K-12, we work with schools, not just here locally, but throughout the country to help teachers, help administrators deal with some of these behavioral issues that our students were being faced with and getting ahead of them. A lot of times in life, we are reactive rather than proactive. And folks, it's time to get proactive.
Thank you. Next question. We will begin with Mr. Alonso. Do you support collective bargaining rights? If so, what role do unions and these collective bargaining rights have in public education?
So I know this will ruffle some feathers, but I think the unions are destroying our school system. What the unions are doing, the unions are no longer supporting our teachers. The unions are supporting their social issues and their agenda. Right now in Miami-Dade County, our unions, rather than focusing on our teachers, are focusing on attacking our governor, focusing on attacking our parental rights, and focusing on bringing in these textbooks that are corrupting the minds of our children. And we have to stop that. We have to stop that. And I will not be bullied by unions, as most of our board members have been bullied for over years and years. I will not be bullied by union members. I will stand for our parents. I will stand for our communities, and I will stand for our teachers, because the union is not standing for you. And I personally saw that when my smaller sister was attacked at a school by a union member just because she was outperforming that teacher and was telling that teacher, you know what, we need to step up our game because these kids deserve more. And our kids deserve more, folks. So I join you all, and I ask you to support me. And I ask you all to pray for me, because the threats are out there. They will come after me. And I welcome them to come after me, because you know what? If I'm fighting for the kids, I'm fighting against the unions.
Thank you. Ms. Balbin, my apologies. I just realized I skipped over the last question. So let's do this. Let's continue with this question, and then I will come back to the security question for you. My apologies.
Yeah,
Obviously,
that was
this is
fine,
not
because
my
I
reg.
already sort of addressed it, so that's why I let it go, but it's okay. We can go back to it. I noticed, but hey.
This is not my full-time
problem.
regular job. So obviously I have
No
some
problem.
learning to
I
do.
get
My
you.
apologies.
You're
So let's,
slipping, Ramiro. We spoke so highly of you. And look,
Okay,
let's continue with this question, and we'll come back to you if you choose to answer.
no
it.
problem.
So
So
we'll
it's
go
me
to you,
now?
Ms. Balbin. Yes. Do you support collective bargaining rights? If so, what role do unions and these collective bargaining unit rights have in public education?
Okay, first of all, where I come from, and actually I know the 1940 Constitution of the country of Cuba. Unions are in the Constitution, and in Cuba, unions were very, very well regarded. And my family was part of unions in Cuba in the 50s and 40s. Unions have built the middle class of this country. There's a middle class in this country because of the work of unions. I don't belong to a union, and in all my 20 years of service in Miami-Dade County, I didn't belong to a union because I didn't qualify, because I couldn't join them, but if not, I would have. In education, unfortunately, especially in Miami-Dade County, yes, even the majority of the teachers that do not belong to the union benefit from every single one of the benefits that they, thank you, So because this is a right to work state, so you don't have to pay your dues to get the benefits of what the union negotiates for you. So they have a role, and I just said it. I mean, if we were taken care of by our elected officials in the way that we should be, and because the differential is one thing right there, but the rights that teachers have, and that you have or have a break, and that you have of doing whatever, and that you have to challenge whatever happens to you, all those things are necessary, because although you may feel that you have all the wonderfulness that God had given you, and maybe you don't need any of that, the majority of workers do need protection, and they need someone to negotiate for them. And that's what unions do. They don't attack anybody. They're not after anybody. They're defending those people that they represent, and they represent. So I am a supporter of unions. I've been endorsed by many of them for this position here that I'm running for. And I do believe that without them, you would like to see where the salaries would be of teachers if there was no union.
Thank you. Mr. Menendez-Mackey.
Thank you. I believe in any organization, any system, we need balance. Am I in favor of everything that the union's ever done? And I've seen it firsthand at school sites when I was a public school principal, public school teacher rather. I've seen stewards that abuse their responsibilities. However, we do need entities that protect the workers, but there has to be balance. We have to sit at the collective bargaining table and work with the union. We have to make sure that our school personnel is protected. No, it's not a perfect union. And unions can protect sometimes teachers that maybe aren't doing their jobs, but without a union, without an entity that protects our teachers, our school personnel, what rights will our teachers have in the system? There is room for improvement, but we do need an entity that protects our teachers ultimately, because I've seen firsthand at school sites where a principal can abuse the rights of a teacher. So I could tell you firsthand, as someone that has been in those shoes, we do need an entity that protects the teacher. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to ask that you please hold your applause after each question. We still have a number of questions and we're scheduled to conclude at 9 p.m. So I think the clapping is delaying us a bit. So why don't we hold that until the end of the forum, please? Thank you. All right, Ms. Badmin, my apologies. So let me go back to you. Would you like to answer that question that I skipped over you?
I'm in a privilege. I had already addressed the safety issues, so I'm just going to take 30 seconds on the
Please.
union issue.
Thank you. My apologies again.
It really surprises me all the time that nobody has a problem with the firemen's union. Nobody has a problem with the police unions. Why do we have this problem with the teachers union? Teachers who deserve them, I mean, just as much. They are all frontline workers, just like the nurses. Nobody has a problem with nurses unions. Why do we always have to think that the teachers union, the people that are making our children, the leaders of the future, are the ones that need to be punished every time? So
Thank you.
that's
All right,
my-
we'll get back on track now. The next question, and Ms. Balbain, it is your turn to go first now. So I will ask you this question. Do you think charter schools should be taxpayer funded, and what role do they play in public education?
that train left the station, and Governor Bush, his intent as for charter schools have been totally changed from that Liberty City school that was a model that he totally supported, and we all went to see how it worked. It has evolved into a much more different institution, if we can call it that. It is the law in Florida. It is public money, public dollars. So I do believe that there should be the same accountability for those dollars for the public that we have for public schools. And we should require that they teach and accept all the students, just like the public schools do. And I do believe that the teachers should be paid more. And hopefully this time around with the referendum, they will be paid more too. But my opinion, I mean, we are a top choice district in the country. This Miami-Dade County is a top choice district, and that includes the choice that parents have to send your children to charter schools. And I support it.
Thank you. Mr. Menendez-Mackey, you're next.
I'm a champion for school choice, bottom line. I think charter schools have their place in our community. Case in point, let's look at the town of Miami Lakes. What did charter schools do here at the town? It made the school district become innovative. I look at Barbara Goldman Senior High as an example. Perfect case study right there. Barbara Goldman Senior High was on the downturn. We had Matter Lakes and different Matter charter company schools pop up on the scene. What did the district do? They said, let's get creative. Let's create a mega magnet of Barbara Goldman Senior High. And now that is a thriving school. It's one of the best schools in all of Dade County, not just our district. We know that competition breeds innovation and creativity. Same thing I do at my school. I'm always on the lookout of our competitors. Thank the Lord that our competitors have fallen around us and our school has thrived. But that competition made us become innovative and bring a better product to our parents and to our students. Competition is a good thing. I have business people on the dais with me. They know that. Competition makes us stronger. When I'm in this seat, I truly believe the marketing plan for Dade County Public Schools, excuse me, but it's horrible. We need to market our schools better in the town and throughout the county. Case in point, Miami Lakes Middle School has one of the top legal programs in the country. How many of you know that in the audience? Mm-hmm. It's not advertised, folks. Miami Lakes Educational Center is one of the best magnet schools in all of the county. Barbara Goldman Senior High, mega magnet. When I'm sitting on this seat, I say, Miami Lakes Middle, let's make it a mega magnet as well. Let's make sure that we go to Tallahassee. Representative Rizzo can help me with this, right? Let's make sure that Miami Lakes K-8 and Bob Graham Education Center, by the way, the two only K-8s that do not receive Title I funds from our federal government, let's make sure that they're provided the resources that they need.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Alonso.
So I've always been a supporter of parental choice for the school that is right for your child, as well as our public charter schools. A lot of times we talk about charter schools as being private schools. These are public charter schools. They report back to our public school district, and our district actually benefits from a lot of their great results in their grades to show this A+ status that we have as Miami-Dade County Public School. So we're all one. We're all one community. And I think that's one of the main things we have to do. For far too long, the community has wanted this drive for choices, but yet there's been too much bureaucracy trying to block the growth of innovation within our district. And charter schools have pushed us out of our level, out of our comfort zones to say, you know what, it's time to think creative. Just today, I was driving through Hialeah and I was sad because I look at some of these schools and they look abandoned. They look with high grass in the areas, not painted, but then you drive by a charter school and it looks beautiful, welcoming center. And the principals have shared with me, they go, I walk people through my school, and how can I compare myself to that public charter that has a beautiful hallway? Well, it comes down to priorities. Where are we prioritizing our dollars within our schools? What are we doing to change the curve appeal? Folks, we're living in a modern world. Social media and curve appeal is everything that our students are looking at, and they want to walk into somewhere where they're welcomed, somewhere that is beautiful, something that is supportive. We need to work on our schools, and these are things that are not very expensive. These are things that we can easily invest in being able to improve the curve appeal, making parents feel safe. And then once again, as I mentioned earlier, work with systems and data to bring the programs back, the same way that I've done with other school districts across the country, to understand what programs, what career paths those particular communities are looking for, and develop those programs within those schools so that, you know what, we don't have to worry about kids leaving the charters. We have to worry about what do we do with all the kids that are signing up to our programs here at Hialeah Senior High School.
Thank you. Next question. Did you or your children attend public schools? If not, why not? Mr. Menendez-Mackey, you are first.
So I'm a product of public education. I did graduate from a faith-based school, and I'm not sorry about that. It changed my life for the best. But I am a product of public school. I attended North Twin Lakes, Joella C. Good, Lake Stevens Middle School, and American Senior High. It changed my life. Public school made a great impact in my life. My children attend my school because, quite frankly, I'm the principal. I don't think anyone in the audience would send their kid anywhere else if they were the principal at a school. The only reason I am at a private school is the opportunity knocked. It was a school that was on the downturn. It was a school with about 200 kids. That school is at 540 kids today in about 5 years. It's a school that I started at from the time I was a little boy until about second grade, because my mother had a relationship with the family and the pastor there. And it was an opportunity came knocking. It was a chance to revive one of the great community schools in the city of Hialeah. And I jumped at the chance. If it wasn't for that, I'd still be a member of Dade County Public Schools. So I'm a believer in the public school system. Like I stated before, I believe that all schools can thrive, whether they're public, charter, or private. I'm a champion for choice. Thank you.
Mr. Alonso?
So I started my educational experience right here at Palm Springs North Elementary. I went to kindergarten there. After that, I had some difficulty in which the teachers were saying that I had ADD. They were asking my parents to go get psychological evaluations and to get placed on their medication. So my parents wanted to help me out, and I went to Immaculate Conception, which I'm very proud of. Go Immaculate, Hialeah. I received my career there, and then I graduated from PACE. But throughout every summer, my family couldn't afford for me to be able to go to summer camps. And I don't know if many of you remember this, but the public school system actually offered summer school for our community to help our children improve on their academics over the summer. So I did attend public school during the summers, and I would go to Miami Lakes Middle School right here down the street, because my parents wanted me to make sure, rather than sitting at home, there was no electronics back then, but the limited electronics there was, they wanted to make sure that I was using my summertime in order to improve and prepare myself for the next school year. My smaller son, Oliver, is a product of Doral Charter School. It is a great school that provided him a great education. My two sisters are public school teachers. So I think it's evident that I am a huge supporter of our public school system. But I also am somebody that is a huge proponent of my faith. I believe in God, and I want my children to have that experience. So my older son does go to a parochial school. He goes to a Jesuit school where they're developing men for others there. And I'm very proud of the young man that he's become going there. But I'm also proud of the products that we're producing here out of our public school system. And I see my sisters every day, day in and day out, working hard in order to make sure that every child, regardless of how much money their parents make, regardless of what community they're from, receive the best education possible.
Thank you. Ms. Balbin?
Yes, I think I addressed that in my introduction a little bit, but I came from Cuba when I was 14 years old, and I spoke no English, and I went to Citrus Grove, who was an interesting experience for me. Then I went to Miami Senior High, where there were so many of us, and that's where I finally learned a little bit more of English. We had 2 shifts in Miami Senior High. It was an interesting old Cuban refugee children running around. My daughter went to public schools. She went to, when it was Miami Lakes Elementary, then she went on a magnet program to Norland Middle, a music magnet. And then she wanted to go to a normal school. So she did high school at HML, where she ended up being the band captain until 12th grade. And one of her friends is here too. She now teaches at Hialeah Gardens High School. I have 2 grandchildren, a beautiful third grader and a wonderful first grader that go to Miami Lakes K through 8. I have great respect, admiration, and I'm extremely thankful for public schools. It has offered me all the opportunities that I ever had, and including later on Miami-Dade College and then FIU. So I am a great supporter, a defender, and I do believe that democracy works better when we have a strong public school system and a strong public schools.
Thank you. Next question. Our district faces many problems. As a teacher and a taxpayer, the taxes used to fund the district impacts me both as a taxpayer, but also as an employee of the Miami-Dade County Public School System. How would you balance helping both taxpayers of Miami-Dade County, but also the employees of the Miami-Dade County Public Schools? Mr. Alonso, we begin with you.
Well, I think we stated this earlier on, and I'll just go back to my comment. Our taxpayers are suffering, and part of those taxpayers are our teachers. We cannot afford any additional increases in taxes, because no matter what, our taxes are going up just because the value of our homes have gone up. And folks don't realize that, but your taxes are going up regardless of the pass of a referendum or not. What the referendum is going to do is just add more to what's coming. So it's important that we realize that with the $7 billion budget, $250 million is sometimes a rounding error. And I can tell you from firsthand experience in working with school districts, the waste that occurs within purchasing departments is tremendous. So I will immediately, as a school board member, upon being elected, go to work on that budget with the best financial experts. I'm not the best financial expert in the world. I have experience with it. But what we do is, as leaders, we surround ourselves with the smartest and brightest people out there. Same way that I'll surround myself with the smartest and brightest teachers, I will surround myself with the smartest and brightest accountants and financial folks to dive into that budget, as we've already done, and find where the waste is to make sure that we save our taxpayers' dollars while making sure that all of our teachers and our police officers, as well as our administrators, because sometimes we focus a lot on teachers, but we have an entire educational team here with our school resource officers, psychologists. So we will make sure that we take the dollars to where they're needed and that they're not wasted on things that we don't need.
Thank you. We'll go to Ms. Balbin, right? Yes.
Thank you. I'm not keeping track. Actually, we know the millage rate issue. The solution, as Miami Lakes is talking about, as the county is talking about, we're talking how much can we reduce the millage to offset the growth in the value of the home so that we can keep our taxes at the same level. I will tell you that the school system just did the same, and the millage for the school system this year is the lowest since Jimmy Carter was president. And that's what the term that was utilized when it was presented. So they've done the same thing in order to maintain the same taxes to offset for the growth of the value on the homes, as you were saying. So we all are in the same boat, and the taxes are what they are. And I will tell you, as for me, I wish somebody would lower my insurance, my home insurance, who just went out $3,000. I mean, that would solve more of my problem than the $20 or $40 or $100 that my taxes will go up. Fix my home insurance. That's what getting people out of their homes. And that's what I have people in Hialeah that I've been talking to going to make them lose their homes or move with their children or move out of Miami. People are moving to Ocala. So we need to solve that issue. But the problem here is the fact that the values go up. If you don't lower the millage, then your taxes go up. So what we're doing is making that little dance that doesn't always, it flattens as much as we want, but it's lowering the millage for those that we can remain with the same tax that we were paying last year.
Thank
That's
you.
going to be the goal.
Mr. Menendez-Mackey.
Thank you. $7 billion. I mean, it sounds like an astronomical number, right? We can agree. There's been mismanagement of this budget for years. Once I'm in that seat, I will attack that budget. It's something that I do year in and year out, balancing the budget at my school. I want to bring it to a broader scale. We know that the referendum is a short-term fix. As Mr. Alonso stated, our property values, we know it, Miami Lakes residents, it's a blessing. I love looking on Zillow and seeing every week my house value, soon it's going to be worth $1 million. I mean, it's amazing. We know that it's inevitable that our property taxes will continue to rise, and we know about 80% goes to our schools. Once I'm in that seat, I will work on balancing that budget, aligning it better to our strategic plan and making it more effective so that our teachers thrive and our students are properly served and that our community is not hit and used as a piggy bank. Thank you.
All right, next question, Ms. Balbin, you will start. Being present in our schools and community is a full-time job. What is your current job, and will you leave that job if you're elected to this board?
Lucky for you, I retired. So I have all the time in the world. I retired last year. And as I said, I was planning on doing all these wonderful things. And now I'm sort of like turning this corner to hopefully being able to serve you in this post. So I do have a small consulting firm in communications with a partner. That's just a small part-time job. So if elected, I definitely will put all of my time to this and make sure that we can work to make things better. to make sure that all the things that we have talked about, that every child, no child is left behind. We're talking about the third grade issue. That's part of the pandemic. We are finding out that these third graders were part of this void that we had, and then they're behind in reading. So looking for all these new and solutions that are out there. There are schools that are doing amazing things that we're still not doing. I do believe that our school district does amazing things. Like Mr. Mackey was saying, they have amazing programs that parents don't know about. We want to work on that. Ms. Hatman talked about that parents need to know more about what is available to them in our schools, marketing them better, like we was said before, so that parents know that there's a wonderful place where the children can go. So I'm going to spend a lot of my time in that. In my career, I was a communications person, outreach. I worked for different government agencies trying to communicate to the taxpayers sometimes why the Everglades restoration was important. So I want to and plan to do the same with our programs and how amazingly wonderful our schools are, to bring back those students that maybe had left because they don't know, and making sure that parents know that all this is available to them.
Thank you.
So I have all the time in the world.
Mr. Menendez-Mackey.
Thank you. Well, at my school, believe it or not, 540 students, I do not have an assistant principal. However, I have been grooming potential leaders. I promised I wouldn't take an AP until our goal was by 2025, we'd surpass what Miami-Dade County Public School is paying their teachers. We're well en route to that. In fact, we might do it by 2024. I do have a couple APs in mind to assist me. As of now, I do not plan on leaving my position. However, it is something that I would have to evaluate and determine once the workload presents itself. But as of now, I am grooming potential leaders to help me in that workload at my current school. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Alonso.
So time is very important. This district, District 4 specifically, deserves somebody that's going to give it the time that it deserves and the connection that it needs with the families. When we talk about careers, as I said, I spent 20 years traveling the country, rarely home. I was across the country, and my family was very important to me, as well as my community. And I'll tell you, those long nights of traveling and being in airports made me think a lot about the purpose in life. And my dad used to always tell me that everything in life is not just about the money, but it's about leaving something behind, leaving a legacy, doing something that's important. And most importantly, something that's important with my family. So I remember that one night when I called my wife from a Holiday Inn Express, and I told her, this is my last day traveling, honey. I'm coming home, and I'm going to dedicate my time to my kids, to my wife, my family, and our community, because they deserve it. And I was spending so much time just disconnected. It was incredible. And I always saw in my dad's eyes when he served our community, not just here in the town of Miami Lakes, but in our church, how there was so much more that you get back by just being engaged with your community and helping others. So that led me to where I'm at today. I am currently a realtor. I went back into the family business. My dad was a realtor, where my dad never missed a football game. My dad had the opportunity to be inside of different roles within the community, whether it was a church leader or the vice mayor of Miami Lakes or the president of our HOA. And I saw that you can somehow find that balance in life. So what I'm committing to this community and to the District 4 is that I will be here present. I do not have any other commitments. Real estate allows me the flexibility to work an hour in the morning, 1 in the afternoon. And I've done that with Miami-Dade College. I periodically visit all of our campuses. I meet with our college presidents, and I don't meet with them to tell them how to do their job, because I think it's important to understand what you are as a board member. We're not here to tell people what to do. We're here to empower people to do what they're best at. And that's what they're doing inside of the schools right now.
Thank you. Final question that was submitted online. Mr. Mackey, we'll begin with you. What is your commitment to being the voice of public education for our children and teachers, and how will you advocate for them?
As I stated earlier, I'm a champion for education. It doesn't matter if it's in the public sphere, charter, or private. From the time I was in high school, I knew that I wanted to be an advocate for all children. That's my commitment. That's why I'm doing this. I want to make sure that all students thrive in our county. My commitment, if at any moment I find that I can't be full into this, I will resign in my current position. my duty is to the students of Dade County, and that's why I'm doing this. I want to make a broader impact, not just at a school site, but countywide. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Alonso.
So I'm in an interesting position because, as I said earlier, every Sunday night I get stared down by two teachers from public schools. Every day I wake up and I represent the largest public college in the United States. There is no other person in this world that carries that weight on their back and their shoulders every day than me. In protecting our public education institutions and making sure that we're here to provide a good education to every single student, starting from the day that they start pre-kindergarten all the way into the day that they graduate from their college with their bachelor's degree. It's important that we support public education, and I would always put it first. I will always put it first because that is what is developing the future generations, the future leaders of our community. And I tell folks this because a lot of times I knock on doors and I talk to abuelito and abuelita, and they're like, ay, mijo, and I apologize for the Spanish, ya yo no tengo niños en la escuela. And I go, señora, and I'll say it in English now, those students that are being educated today in our public schools are the individuals who are going to care for you in the future. Those are the individuals that might be president one day. Those are the individuals that are going to be serving you at the restaurant. We need to worry about our public school systems, regardless of what stage we are in our lives, regardless of what position we hold in our lives, because that is the engine that is driving the future of our community as well as our world.
Ms. Balbin?
I would spend some time again trying to communicate to parents what is available to them. We have 45 schools in District 4 and 11 charters. Each one of them have children that excel, and each one of them have children that are behind. So my purpose on this is also to make sure that every single child that goes to our public school system is learning adequately, has all the resources, and has the safest environment possible. Talking about how schools may look and how they may not be attractive, I'm sure that the one, Mr. Alonso, that you saw is one that hasn't gotten the benefits of the GOB money yet. We had 2 schools in District 4 that got their money this month at the school board, including Miami Lakes Junior High, got their GOB money. Each school in Miami-Dade County was promised that they were all going to have the same look, they're going to have the same resources, because no matter what zip code a child lives in, he needs to have the same exact access to the best education and the best resources. So part of my goal to spend time on would be to make sure that that is happening, that all of the schools have received the money that was allocated to them, and they have been restored or rebuilt and provided with all the resources that the GOB money that we already pay for, we already did that in 2012, has provided, and make sure that it's happening and the students are being the beneficiaries of it.
Thank you. We're moving now into the questions coming directly from you, our audience here this evening. The first question, and I'll give a little bit of background before I ask the question. Prior to the pandemic, the school board did a lot of research on start times. As you know, elementary schools, middle schools, and high schools all start at different times. And the pandemic hit, so that all froze. So the question is, what is your opinion of school start times, specifically high schools that currently begin at 7:20, as a lot of data has shown that starting that early is not healthy for young people? I believe we start with Mr. Alonso, correct? I think so. Yes, Mr. Alonso.
Not sure, but I'll take it. Listen, school times and staggering is something that I've actually been looking at a lot, specifically when it comes to traffic. We have a lot of traffic issues that are happening within our community, and obviously our kids and the environment that they're in, and making sure that we're doing things correctly for their mental stability so that they wake up in the mornings and that they're ready to class is important. But we also have to take into fact that we can't have every single school open up at the same exact time across the entire county, because it's just disastrous. It's not going to benefit any of our children. It's not going to benefit any of our teachers, and it's not going to benefit our community. So as a school board member, I will continue to evaluate that. And I think we need to do that even within our K-8 schools. For example, we're talking to the Miami-Dade community. My sister is a teacher at Bob Graham, and I was a past resident of Royal Oaks, and I hear of some of the concerns from Royal Oaks residents concerning the traffic and the amount of cars that pack in at one time because they're trying to release an entire school, K through 8, at one time within 20 minutes. What does that do to our traffic patterns? It's impossible. No matter how our police officers, move traffic around, doesn't matter where we park them, it's just literally impossible. So we need to work together with our schools, with our school professionals that understand what it is that is best for our kids, and with our law enforcement to realize what are the best times and what are the best ways to stagger arrival and dismissal at our schools to not only help our students, but to also help with the traffic consequences that we have from those issues.
Ms. Balbin?
Yes, I was through that conversations about the times. And I do believe that there was a majority at some point when they did a polling that said, yes, we need to move the time for the high schools. And I think that my daughter would appreciate that. She leaves at 6:30 in the morning. So it'd be easier for her. So I do believe that there are pros and cons on the issue. I would tend to say that high schools don't have a need to start that early anymore. There was a whole issue because children had to work, they had a part-time job. A lot of that doesn't really happen anymore that way. So as far as the traffic situation, I walk my grandchildren to Miami-Dade K through 8, so I don't have to, but I see the traffic issue. I know it's horrible no matter where. And I've never understood why they build Bug Ground where they build it, by the way. It's horrible for the people that live there. I don't know what I would do if I had to stand in that line that I see them standing on. So it is a difficult issue. It's for the experts to decide, but I do believe that a lot of the teachers and students that were surveyed at the time wanted to move the time up from 7:30 to something later for high schools. And I would agree with that if it is the majority that wants it.
Mr. Menendez-Mackey.
I remember I was actually sitting in an EAB meeting and that was brought up, that there was a poll being taken and research being conducted on a later start time for high school. I actually did it at my school and we've seen it pay dividends. We moved our from an 8 o'clock start time to 8:30. I understand that traffic is an issue in the town, and I know my fellow residents that live on the west side, you can attest to it, and I feel for you. But I think the priority should be the education and the academics of our students, no? I think research has shown that a later start time is beneficial to high school students. And it's something that I did at my school. And our academics have gone up. Our scores came in about a month ago. They've gone up. We were closing gaps from the pandemic years. So I think we need to listen to our community and be science driven. If a later start time is being suggested and it is a benefit to our high school students, I think it's a no-brainer.
Thank you. Next question. It's a long one. What will you do to address the students that are failing academically in reference to a system that helps the student get evaluated in a timely manner, not after failing several grading periods or school years? I believe Ms. Balbin, I'm sorry, but the question goes to you.
Yeah, okay. I do believe that the testing issue, if you're having multiple tests through the year, is better than having the system that we had before. And I think that we've all agreed on that. And that's what is going to happen in Florida, finally, for that. So for the students that are left behind, right now, actually, there's specific money that was allocated because of COVID to the school system that we can assist students that need remediation, that need any kind of assistance to make sure that their academics that failed or that they're failing in their academics due to the pandemic issues. There are programs in place right now to address that. And we need to make sure that they take advantage of it, because when you have a child that stays behind, that just messes him up for the rest of their academic instruction. So I do believe that the testing, the spaced testing process or procedures is better, and I do believe that we have assistance to help those students that have been left behind or that are behind for whatever academic reason. Sometimes it's suspension issues, all kinds of issues that happen, and we do have the programs now to assist them, and I hope that they all take advantage of them.
Thank you. Would you like for me to repeat the question?
You got it.
Sure. I think I got it.
Go.
I think the state is taking the right steps in doing away with the FSA and going to a progress monitoring system. I know for the beginning of this school year, the progress monitoring will be used as the baseline. In other words, that will be the benchmark for students as they begin the school year. It's the right step and in the right direction to make sure that education is tailored for each child. I think we have to empower teachers in the classroom. I know that PD is constantly done. I think PD has to be well directed and executed. When we talk about waste in our budget, I've seen it firsthand as a teacher. How many trainings are done that are quite wasteful. We need to make sure they're targeted so that teachers are empowered in the classroom to know how to perform formative assessments in the classroom, to make sure that they're headed down the right path when teaching that lesson. And we have to be data driven. We have to make sure that we're monitoring this child throughout his educational journey on a year in and year in basis. It's absolutely essential. I think the state's taking the right steps. We'll see how it's executed in each district. Once I'm in that seat, I will make sure as an expert in that field that it is executed on a grand scale. Thank you.
Mr. Alonso.
Definitely. So part of what I did throughout my career was work with schools that were low performing or that had issues with their students. And we worked very closely with behavior coaches, math coaches, and English coaches in order to be able to target those individuals that needed the help and the assistance. Because we always talk about training for teachers. And I'm sorry, I mean, my sisters are teachers and I don't need to train them on how to teach. They know how to teach. And I think part of the problems that we have within our public school system is that we're constantly trying to change and add different systems, add different processes that just overwhelm our teachers and force them to constantly change what it is that they're doing. Our teachers are great at what they do. If we allow our teachers to do what they're doing and what they're taught to do when they're going to college and university, they will perform excellently. What we need to do is we need to provide our teachers with support. And what I mean by support is bringing in those math coaches, those English coaches that will come in and pull out those students that are falling behind and provide them the assistance that they need. Because one teacher can only do so much in a classroom. Finally, I want to go into a little bit of the progress monitoring. It's important that we look at that because we need to be able to truly focus on these students. And I hear it all the time from teachers where they're expected to do magic with the child that came to them that had no idea what they were doing. Right now, we're seeing it. It was part of why I'm running. At the college, we're receiving students that are coming from high schools that are not ready to take college level and math, college level English. But we're also seeing that in our elementary schools where students are coming back from the pandemic, being home for 2 years, where mom and dad were trying to balance work and teaching inside of a house. Some of these kids coming into second grade, I was hearing from teachers, didn't even know how to write their name yet. Better yet, learn how to read. And now a teacher that is teaching second grade, it's teaching a child how to write their name, how to read. We need to provide teachers with support. We don't need to tell them how to do their job.
Thank you. Next question. Mr. Mackey, it goes to you first. Do you have classroom experience? If so, how many years? And if not, how will you be able to connect with what teachers experience?
I was a public school teacher with Dade County Public Schools for 11 years, but I can tell you, once a teacher, always a teacher. In fact, I even taught 1 year as a principal, a middle school math class, because I wanted to make sure that I honed my skills on a year in and year basis. I regularly enter the classroom and teach lessons and model lessons for new teachers. In fact, today I performed the training at my school on developing lesson plans and progress monitoring, which we've been doing at my school for years. So yes, when it comes to education, there's definitely contrast up here. Once a teacher, always a teacher. And my commitment will be to all teachers in Dade County. Thank you.
Mr. Alonso.
There's an analogy, and I always like to place this. The most successful NBA coaches have never played basketball in their lives. Being a leader is not about being a teacher or being a basketball player or being a construction worker. It's about being somebody who knows how to surround themselves with the best talent out there. somebody who's going to work together with the community, with the teachers, with the financial experts, with the behavior experts, with the security experts, to bring together the brightest minds in order to deliver excellence. I'm not claiming to be a teacher. I have worked a lot with teachers. I've trained thousands of teachers across the country. I've been in the classroom. I've been there dealing with the toughest children, because what we did is go into the toughest schools, whether it be Detroit, California, Miami-Dade County. We've been in all the schools. I was in all the schools working with the teachers. I know what teachers go through day in and day out. And not only that, but my two sisters are teachers. So they remind me every day of the sacrifices that they make in order to take care of our children. Folks, you drop off your children every day in the school in the morning, and that teacher is responsible for molding that child to be somebody in the future. It's important that we understand that teachers are very important to our future and to the future of our community. And I will make sure always to surround myself with the best and brightest to make sure that I deliver to Miami-Dade County residents the best educational experience that their children can reserve.
Ms. Balbin?
Yes, I have the highest respect for teachers and I have the highest respect for Mr. Mackey. The school board right now has the majority of former school teachers on the board. There are two board members that didn't come from the education field. I am not an educator, and I don't think I have what it takes actually to be an educator. I look at my daughter and I cannot do what she does. I do what I do, which I've done really very well. And I belong to multiple boards in the past. And for those of you that belong to boards, know that a board works best when there's diversity of backgrounds in their members. So although I'm not an educator, I'm looking for this particular job that is normally bestowed in an educator. But I promise you that what I know and what I bring with me would be to make sure that I understand every single aspect of what I don't already know. I already told you that I have spent a lot of times going to the board meetings. I read the agenda. I look at the items. For example, I'm extremely concerned with the minority participation in contracting at the school board. That's something that needs to be addressed to make sure that our community benefits. One way of benefiting from our taxes is by getting contracts to our minority businesses. So there are many responsibilities on the board, not just the curriculum and development curriculum. We have experts for that. The board will manage and make sure that that is implemented. And that's what I'm looking forward to do. And that's what I promise you that I can do without being an educator. Although I must tell you, I spent the whole pandemic with my first grader doing 3 Zooms a day with a wonderful teacher from West Hialeah Elementary, Miss Sanchez, who I have appreciated to no end, and every single teacher after that, because only angels can do that work. They do God's work day in and day out. I'm not one of them.
Thank you. Mr. Alonso, this question will start with you. Critical race theory is not being taught in Miami-Dade County Public Schools. So why is there such a focus on trying to ban it?
So I think that's a very important question to bring up, and a lot of folks shy away from it. I don't because our textbooks might not have it in it, but we have folks that are in there that are trying to bring in these mindsets. And it's important that we protect our schools from these types of individuals and these types of agendas that are coming in. The reason I say that is I'm the product of 2 Cuban parents who came to this country looking for a great education, an education where we're not blaming anybody for something or taking away a child from a parent. There's no reason why my sons should be guilty of what past generations did. I support history. I want history to be taught, but I want history to be taught in the right way, the way that it's taught today in our schools, and that nobody comes in with their own personal agendas on trying to destroy our country. Our country provided me and my parents the opportunity for freedom and liberty. I'm proud of this country. I stand for my flag every day, and I will make sure that every classroom in our district has that American flag every day, because that is one thing that you can never take away from me, my freedom.
Ms. Balbin?
Well, critical race theory is just a term about race in America. Now, I'm not white. White people in this country don't consider me white. As a matter of fact, I'm called a woman of color everywhere I go. So this issue of having the guilt that may be portrayed on white people in this country is foreign to me. Okay. But the key to this is that it is not taught in our public school system. It is not taught in the state of Florida. This is not something that happens. It's a narrative that makes people interested in certain conversations. But if we're saying that there's this undercurrent of information to our students, that means our teachers are doing that. And honestly, I don't know one single teacher that is interested in teaching something that they're not asked to teach. They are already overwhelmed with what they are asked to teach. So someone in another forum said that it was happening, that they had witnessed some PowerPoint that some teacher presented in some obscure room somewhere, and there's a video of it. Well, maybe there was some person at some room and somewhere, but as a policy, as a rule, as what we do in Florida, Florida does not teach critical race theory, and it will not do it either. It's not anywhere in their plans. None of our legislators has said they want to do that. So therefore, to have that conversation, I don't spend any time on it because I don't like to spend time on something that is not done. I like to speak about things that we can do, that we can fix, and that we can move forward with. I don't like to talk about things that are not happening. So critical race theory is not one of them.
Thank you, Mr. Menendez-Mackey.
Thank you. Speaking to teachers around the district, administrators, I've had the opportunity to speak to many. To my knowledge, it's not occurring now. I'm not saying that it's not occurring at all. It's just what I've heard firsthand. Now, I think we do need to be on guard and make sure that that doesn't infiltrate our school sites. Where I see the danger with critical race theory, and it's not a new term, by the way, this is something that
40
originated
years.
in the 70s. Yeah. And it's the belief that there's a systemic racism in all our systems, and that minority groups are behind the eight ball. They're at a disadvantage. I say to you, how can we teach a little Black boy or a little Hispanic boy from a young age that in this great country of ours, they don't have a chance? That's where I see the danger in critical race theory. Because I believe my mother came here at 11 years old from Cuba, exiled from her country, her farm taken away from her. And she rose to become a senior vice president at many banks here in Miami Beach and throughout the city of Miami. It didn't impact her. So I think when we create a narrative where we tell young boys and girls that the system is stacked against them, that's a dangerous precedent. I think that's the rhetoric that we have to guard against and protect our youth. Thank you.
Thank you. Two more questions. However, the final question will be rolled into the candidates' concluding remarks. So final question. And I believe we go now with, thank you. All right. What will you be doing to help ESE students and other students who need more focused and specialized attention?
Well, we go back to staffing. Like I stated earlier, at some school sites, they're doing an amazing job from what I hear, firsthand accounts. At some, and I understand as an administrator, they have to get creative sometimes. Those ESE chairs, certain teachers are pulled for other duties and used as an administrator. I've seen it with math and reading coaches, educators in the room. You've seen this at your school sites where those math and reading coaches are used like other APs, right? We have to make sure that our ESE students, whatever is that IEP, whatever accommodation they're afforded legally, classroom modifications, if they're pulled for a resource room and it says 80% of the time on that IEP in a resource room, it should be 80% of the time. I'll make sure that that happens. But that comes with properly supporting these ESE teachers at each school site. I propose, and I know the town has discussed it. For instance, HML has a wing that's not being utilized today. I say we create a district-run charter school where we specifically address the needs of ESE students. And this can happen within each district. I know at a recent EAB meeting, we spoke with the previous principal about creating life skill classes, because we have to think about this. Students on the spectrum, are they prepared for life after school? We have to make sure that these students are prepared for adult life as well. And once I'm in this seat, I promise I will be a champion for students with exceptionalities. Thank you.
Mr. Alonso.
Supporting our students with disabilities is a priority that has to be put at the top of our list. I have firsthand met with parents that are suffering with children that are autistic, children who have mental disabilities that are not provided the support that they had. Recently, the school board took this topic up and started attacking a group of mothers that were just asking for help. And I think it's important that we realize that this is happening. I heard a story that just broke my heart of a mother who showed up to a school because she had received a call in the middle of the day that her autistic child was being arrested. When she arrived to the school, the student was face down on the ground with handcuffs put onto him because the school did not have the proper support to handle that situation. And I don't blame the principal because it starts at the top. And we have to be able to provide the support that these schools need in order to be able to handle these types of situations. We need to be able to help our students at our K through 12 by providing our school principals and our teachers with the resources that they need. When I recently spoke to an ESC teacher, she had mentioned to me that most of the time she's substituting inside of the school because they need her in another classroom. So guess what? Her time now with those children that needed help has been taken away from them. Who's at the disadvantage here now? We're then faced with the issue of inclusion. That's a federal law. We have to have inclusion. We have to allow these students to be a part of our community. It's not about putting them all into one building and taking them away from society. It's about providing them the services that they need inside of the classrooms. That's what the parents want. That's what the taxpayers are paying for. Each of these students have dollars that follow them, and those dollars need to be spent on those students and not used for other resources within the schools.
Thank you. Ms. Balbin?
We go back to adequate funding. The reason why principals play musical chair with their staff is because they don't have enough staff. In order for you to really provide the services adequately, you need to have the adequate number of staff to take care of the children in your class, in your school. And I've talked to principals that literally play musical chairs, like you said. One is doing this now, and then they pull them to do something else. So I'll go back to the fact that we need to fund our schools adequately, and we need to go back to the district differential from Tallahassee and make sure that each pupil and the funding per pupil is adequate enough to have all the number of staff that we need in order to take care of our children. I'll go back to talk about Massachusetts and the fact that they have 3.5 more funding. When you walk in a school in Massachusetts, I was talking to someone that recently went, and surprised by the number of adults. Okay, you're surprised by the number of adults that you see in the school, in the campus. And it's because they have the money to pay for make sure that every single child that needs a special, and this goes to gifted children too, by the way. It's not just, so we go back to the need to staff each one of our schools adequately so that our students are served adequately by the right person and the right staff.
Thank you. Final question, and I'll ask each of the candidates to please incorporate into your closing comments, which I suspect you probably were going to anyway. Here's the question. Why are you the most qualified candidate in support of teachers, parents, and children to represent District 4 in the Miami-Dade County Public School Board? As was previously determined, the candidates will do their closing statements. Mr. Alonso will go first, Mr. Menendez-Mackey second, and Ms. Badbeen third. Mr. Alonso, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. First of all, I want to start off by thanking the audience for being so patient and being here today. And thanking you, Mr. Iguanzo, for a great job in moderating this event. I am the right candidate because I have the passion. I have the fire that District 4 is asking for. And what I mean by that is an individual who's going to pour his heart into this community to make sure that every morning when I wake up, I make the families, the students, and the teachers of District 4 my top priority. And how I do that is by being able to be connected with the community. I mentioned earlier in my remarks that one of my first initiatives is to open up a district office. That district office is going to be located in the heart of my district, where the teachers, the administrators, the parents, the students will have direct access to me so that I can represent them on the board. And going back to the earlier comments about teaching experience, where it is that you bring your experience to the board, I think it's important to realize that being on the board, as Ms. Babing had mentioned earlier, I'm not there to be a teacher. I'm there to be a leader. I'm there to be somebody who brings the brightest minds together in order to be able to provide our community with the best education that their students deserve while protecting their taxpayer dollars. Because that board has the responsibility to continuously review that budget and make sure that we're spending your dollars correctly and that we're not just taxing and spending continuously, which is something that has happened for way too long. And the final thing that I'll do is, as a parent, I'm going to protect the rights of you as a parent, as well as the rights of our students, to make sure that parents always have an access to what it is that being taught to our students, but more importantly, that parents are involved in the daily upbringing of their children. And in doing so, it's working together with teachers, because I understand, and I saw it firsthand when I worked in schools, that not every child has the opportunity to have a good supportive parent at home. And what we need to do is we need to work together with those parents to bring them in, to make them supportive, to be able to support our children so that those students have the support both at school as well as at home, because there's only so much that our teachers can do in the short time that they have with our students. We need that parental involvement, not just from reviewing textbooks, but coming in and supporting our teachers and supporting our children, especially when it comes to behavioral issues. So in turn, I end with saying there's a reason why our governor and so many local leaders are supporting me and endorsing me. And that's because I have a proven track record of being a leader that works together with our community, with our local officials, with our state officials, as well as our federal officials, to always make sure that we make Miami-Dade County #1.
Thank you. Mr. Menendez-Mackey.
Thank you, sir. I want to thank you for the wonderful job. I mean, let's give it up. That's what a moderator does. I want to thank the audience, my fellow Miami Lakers, and all our friends that are in the chamber. Thank you so much for being here with us. Whoever sits in the seat, #1, has to care for our kids. It has to be child-based decisions, and we have to support our teachers. I've been there. As mentioned, when elected, I'll be a voice for students, parents, and educators. It's something I do on a daily basis. I agree that a board should have a diverse array of talents. I possess a diverse array of talents, but I think as a bonus, I've walked in the shoes of those teachers. I am a principal. I'm a product of public education. I know my opponents probably have more endorsements than me. I have the endorsement of an elected official that knows us the best, the mayor of our town. He believes in me, not because I'm a childhood friend or my families have deep connections to him as an elected official, but because he truly believes in what I do. I know I entered this race late, but I'm sure that some of the elected officials or groups that have endorsed my friends up here on the dais, they won't lose sleep if I win this race, because they'll know that our children are protected, our teachers are supported, and that every parent in our community has a voice in their child's education. This is my testament to all of you in this chamber. I understand the system and its flaws, and I promise, as a believer in service leadership, I will always be an advocate for all of you. I'm the only educator in this race, and I know that not necessarily all NBA coaches that are players are great coaches, but I got to say Steve Kerr is the best coach in the NBA. He played for the Chicago Bulls, right? As someone who has devoted their life to education, and this is not a sales pitch, folks, I truly have. If you know my heart, my life is students and impacting their lives and raising them to become leaders for our community. I promise that I will not sleep. I will do everything for our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Barbing.
Well, aren't you glad that I'm the one keeping you from going home? You had an opportunity to hear what each of us thinks and what we would like to do. I think it has been a very good demonstration of the differences, and you have a lot of information to make your decision on. And there are marked differences between us. I want to serve as a school board member because I believe that public education, as Horace Mann said, is the cornerstone of the community and democracy. And I have worked in democracy building for the last 30 years as a member of the League of Women Voters. I worked just to make sure that everybody knows who to vote for and register them to vote. And I do believe that part of that is how we come out of the school system. As I told you earlier, I believe in local control, and I think that that's what's at stake. I think we need to keep our school board under local control and not let interferences from anywhere into what we want to do and how we want to make the decisions for our students, for our teachers, and for our community. I'm also not interested in running for any office after this. This is it. This is not a stepping stone for me. And as I said before, I'm retired and I have all the time in the world to dedicate to this position. I do want to assure you all and those watching at home, which I have some friends that are watching at home, that I'm committed to make sure that our students are protected, educated, and that our parents are respected. I mean, that is a motto. That is something that we are going to work for. I have the time, the disposition, and desire to serve the parents and children of District 4. And tonight, in this forum, I am humbly asking you for your vote. And I hope that you consider doing so. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you to all of you and everyone who's watching. We appreciate you being here with us this evening. Also, of course, thank you to the town of Miami Lakes, to the Educational Advisory Board that are here. Let's give them a round of applause for doing this. Thank you for bringing this opportunity to our residents. As you all know, Election Day is less than 3 weeks from today, Tuesday, August the 23rd. Early voting starts very soon, next week, I believe,
Yep,
right?
Monday,
Yes.
Monday.
So let's make sure you go out to vote. Again, thank you. And especially thank you to our 3 candidates. I repeat what I said earlier. This requires an incredible amount of sacrifice of your personal time, of your family, of your work commitments and other commitments. So we appreciate each of you. We've got some great candidates running. We're very fortunate to have that. And we wish you all the best of luck in the next few weeks. Thank you. The candidates will stay for a little bit if you'd like to engage in conversation with them.
Much smoother.
That was great.
You're in balance.
Absolutely good.
We focus on issues, not attacking each other.
No, because I want to talk about you and I want him to.